Buddhist masters who studied consciousness for 2,500 years discovered something extraordinary about certain souls alive today. These souls are living their final incarnation, their last life before breaking free from the endless cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Forever. Everything you believe about why you feel different, why success feels empty, and why you don't fear death the way others do, is completely wrong. That persistent sense of not belonging here? It's not a psychological problem. It's spiritual accuracy. What if your disconnection from this world, your overwhelming empathy, and your urgent need for spiritual answers aren't signs of being broken? What if they're proof that you're completing hundreds of lifetimes of cosmic education? 9 ancient signs reveal which souls are graduating from physical existence forever. Time is running out to recognize them consciously. Your spiritual destiny depends on understanding what's happening to your consciousness. Right now. You found this video. That wasn't an accident. Buddhist masters who studied consciousness for over 2,500 years identified specific souls living their final incarnation right now. These souls break free from samsara, the endless wheel of birth, death, and rebirth, permanently. The question is simple: are you one of them? Ancient Buddhist teachings reveal that most souls cycle through hundreds of lifetimes, learning lessons through repeated incarnations. Each life teaches karma, the law of cause and effect that spans multiple existences. But some souls reach their final incarnation. These souls complete their karmic contracts, clear accumulated karma from previous lifetimes, and prepare for ultimate liberation called Nirvana. Do you feel different from everyone around you? Do material possessions feel empty, despite achieving what others desperately want? Have you lost interest in competition, status, and the endless pursuit of more? You're not broken. You're not unmotivated. You're evolving beyond what most humans understand. Final incarnation souls experience 9 unmistakable signs that Buddhist masters documented centuries ago. These signs indicate your consciousness is preparing for liberation from physical existence entirely. Your persistent feeling of not belonging here makes perfect sense. Your exhaustion with drama and conflict isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Your urgent need to understand life's deeper meaning isn't obsession, it's acceleration. Your soul recognizes this incarnation as its completion phase. Buddhist masters taught that final incarnation souls transform from ego-driven existence to soul-driven consciousness. They transcend attachment to material world, develop hypersensitivity to universal suffering, and feel profound disconnection from human society's competitive patterns. These souls naturally reject conflicts, seek spiritual knowledge intensively, and perceive karma operating in real time. The most advanced souls develop an urgent desire to serve others, understand impermanence deeply, and lose all fear of death. They recognize consciousness as eternal and indestructible, understanding death as transition rather than ending. Have you noticed how quickly your thoughts manifest into reality? Do you feel others' pain as intensely as your own? When did success start feeling hollow? And why does solitude feel more comfortable than crowded rooms? Ancient texts describe souls who lived their final incarnation before achieving liberation. These souls reported identical experiences to what millions feel today. They described feeling like visitors, observing human society rather than participants. They lost interest in accumulating wealth, fame, or status. They developed healing presence and overwhelming compassion for all beings. 9 specific signs identify final incarnation souls with absolute certainty. Buddhist masters guarded this knowledge for centuries, sharing it only with students ready for ultimate spiritual truth. If you recognize even 3 of these signs, your spiritual journey is about to change forever. The first sign is happening to millions right now, but they don't understand what it means. It explains why you've lost interest in money, fame, and everything society says should make you happy. This disconnection from material world isn't depression, it's spiritual awakening. But how do you know if you're truly experiencing this sign versus temporary dissatisfaction? What specific behaviors indicate your soul is preparing for its final graduation? The answer will shock you, because it reveals why everything you thought mattered actually doesn't. The first sign of final incarnation will be revealed next, and once you understand it, you'll never see your life the same way again. Remember that feeling of emptiness when you achieved something everyone else wanted? The promotion that felt meaningless, the expensive purchase that brought no joy, the social recognition that left you feeling more isolated than before. Buddhist masters identified this disconnection from material world as the first unmistakable sign of final incarnation. Final incarnation souls lose interest in money, fame, status, and competition, because their consciousness is evolving beyond ego-driven existence. Ancient Buddhist teachings explain that souls approaching liberation naturally reject material attachments that bind others to the reincarnation cycle. This isn't depression or lack of ambition, it's spiritual awakening. You're not lazy. You're not unmotivated. You're transcending the illusions that trap most humans in endless cycles of wanting, getting, and wanting more. Buddhist masters documented this pattern in souls preparing for their final graduation from physical existence. Final incarnation souls demonstrate specific behaviors that distinguish them from temporary dissatisfaction. They find material possessions feel empty and artificial, regardless of quality or cost. They reject the rat race mentality that drives others to compete for resources, recognition, and status symbols. They prefer solitude and silence over networking events and social climbing. Do you feel uncomfortable in environments focused on wealth accumulation? Does small talk about career advancement and material success feel meaningless? Have you noticed your energy drains quickly in competitive workplace settings? These reactions indicate your soul is shifting toward spiritual knowledge and inner exploration, rather than external validation and material gain. Buddhist masters taught that attachment to material world creates suffering and binds souls to repeated incarnations. The Buddha himself demonstrated this principle by abandoning his royal wealth and status to seek enlightenment. He identified attachment as the root cause of suffering that keeps consciousness trapped in samsara. Final incarnation souls instinctively understand this teaching without formal Buddhist education. They naturally gravitate toward simplicity, reflection, and spiritual pursuits. They find fulfillment in quiet contemplation, rather than accumulating possessions or achievements that impress others. Your discomfort with superficial conversations and materialistic environments isn't antisocial behavior. It's consciousness evolution beyond what most humans experience. How do you distinguish final incarnation disconnection from temporary burnout or depression? Final incarnation souls maintain this detachment consistently across different life circumstances. Economic prosperity doesn't reignite their interest in material accumulation. Career success feels hollow, regardless of recognition or compensation received. They develop strong preferences for natural environments, over urban settings focused on commerce and consumption. They choose experiences over possessions and meaning over money. They find peace in activities that connect them to universal consciousness, rather than personal advancement. This disconnection from material world prepares your consciousness for something far more intense. The second sign reveals why you can't watch the news without crying, why you feel others' pain as if it were your own, and why crowded places sometimes overwhelm you emotionally. This hypersensitivity isn't a weakness that needs fixing. It's not a disorder requiring medication. It's proof of something extraordinary happening to your soul. Your empathy is expanding beyond normal human limits because your consciousness is preparing for universal connection. Buddhist masters called this hypersensitivity to world suffering, the second sign of final incarnation. And when you understand what's really happening to your emotional awareness, everything about your spiritual journey will make perfect sense. You're not too sensitive. You're spiritually advanced. Buddhist masters identified hypersensitivity to world suffering as the second definitive sign of final incarnation. Final incarnation souls experience painful awareness of others' pain that extends to people, animals, and nature itself. This overwhelming empathy isn't a psychological disorder. It's consciousness expansion preparing for universal connection. Final incarnation souls cannot ignore injustice, cruelty, or violence without physical and emotional distress. They feel others' suffering as their own experience, rather than observing it from distance. News reports about war, poverty, and environmental destruction cause genuine pain that affects their daily functioning. Animal suffering triggers intense emotional responses that others dismiss as overreaction. Do you avoid certain movies because violence feels too real? Does watching documentaries about social injustice leave you emotionally drained for days? Have you stopped following news outlets because the content overwhelms your emotional capacity? This hypersensitivity indicates your consciousness is recognizing universal interconnectedness that most humans cannot perceive. Buddhist teachings explain that advanced souls develop understanding of interconnectedness among all beings. The concept of dependent origination reveals how all suffering connects across individuals, species, and ecosystems. Final incarnation souls experience this teaching directly, rather than learning it intellectually. Ancient Buddhist masters documented similar experiences in students approaching enlightenment. These advanced practitioners reported inability to harm any living being and profound distress when witnessing others' pain. They developed what masters called healing presence, a natural ability to comfort suffering beings through their mere proximity. This hypersensitivity requires final incarnation souls to establish boundaries for emotional protection. They must limit exposure to overwhelming stimuli while maintaining compassion for suffering beings. Buddhist masters taught that advanced empathy without boundaries leads to spiritual exhaustion that prevents effective service to others. Final incarnation souls learn to channel their hypersensitivity into healing activities rather than absorbing pain without purpose. They develop discernment between helpful empathy that leads to action and destructive empathy that creates additional suffering. Your need to protect yourself from overwhelming emotional input isn't selfishness. It's spiritual wisdom that preserves your ability to help others effectively. How do you distinguish final incarnation hypersensitivity from normal human empathy? Final incarnation souls experience physical symptoms when exposed to others' suffering. Their bodies react to violence, cruelty, and injustice, with nausea, headaches, and emotional overwhelm that persists for extended periods. They cannot compartmentalize others' pain as separate from their own experience. They feel responsible for alleviating suffering they witness, even when direct action isn't possible. They gravitate toward healing professions, animal rescue, environmental protection, and social justice causes, without conscious career planning. This overwhelming empathy explains something even deeper about your spiritual journey. Your hypersensitivity to suffering connects directly to the third sign of final incarnation. Your persistent feeling that Earth doesn't feel like home. Your expanded awareness of universal pain creates profound discomfort with human society's patterns of competition and conflict. You feel like an outsider, observing behaviors that seem alien and unnecessary. This isn't depression or social anxiety. It's recognition that your consciousness originates from somewhere beyond this physical realm. The third sign reveals why you've always felt like a visitor here, why human society feels foreign, and why your true home exists beyond anything you can see or touch. You've always felt like a visitor here, haven't you? Buddhist masters identified this persistent sense of not belonging as the third unmistakable sign of final incarnation. Final incarnation souls experience profound discomfort with human patterns of competition and conflict because their consciousness originates from higher spiritual planes. This feeling of being not from here isn't depression or social anxiety. It's accurate spiritual recognition. Final incarnation souls feel like observers of human society rather than active participants in its systems. They watch others compete for resources, status, and recognition, with genuine confusion about these behaviors' necessity. Human society's emphasis on hierarchy, accumulation, and dominance feels foreign and illogical to their consciousness. Do you feel exhausted by workplace politics and social climbing? Does the constant competition for material gain seem pointless and artificial? Have you noticed that crowded social events feel more draining than energizing? These reactions occur because your soul remembers operating principles from spiritual realms, where cooperation and unity replace competition and separation. Final incarnation souls demonstrate strong connection to nature and simplicity that contrasts sharply with their discomfort in human social structures. They find peace in natural environments, where competition serves ecological balance rather than ego gratification. Mountains, forests, oceans, and wilderness areas feel more familiar than cities, offices, and social gatherings. Ancient Buddhist teachings explain that souls approaching liberation retain cellular memory of their true spiritual home. Natural environments reflect the harmony and interconnectedness that characterize higher spiritual planes, while human society reflects the separation and conflict that keep souls bound to physical incarnation. Your preference for solitude in nature over human social interaction indicates consciousness alignment with spiritual rather than material reality. Buddhist masters taught that final incarnation souls incarnate from advanced spiritual planes to complete their earthly lessons and assist other souls' evolution. These souls carry intuitive knowledge that their true home exists beyond physical limitations of matter, time, and space. They recognize human social norms as temporary constructs that serve souls in earlier incarnation stages but feel restrictive and unnecessary for advanced consciousness. They understand that concepts like nationality, social class, and cultural identity are learning tools rather than ultimate reality. Your rejection of social norms isn't rebelliousness or antisocial behavior. It's consciousness evolution beyond the illusions that define human society for most incarnated souls. Final incarnation souls experience fundamental identity shift, from human having spiritual experience to spiritual being having human experience. This transformation explains their persistent feeling of not belonging to Earth systems and structures. They maintain deep love for Earth as a planetary consciousness, while feeling disconnected from human civilization's competitive patterns. They appreciate natural beauty, ecological systems, and the learning opportunities physical existence provides, without feeling attached to permanent residence here. Your simultaneous love for Earth and discomfort with human society reflects your soul's preparation for return to its spiritual origin after completing this final incarnation. This sense of not belonging explains your discomfort with human society, but there's something even more revealing about your spiritual advancement. The fourth sign shows why you can't tolerate drama and conflict anymore. Why arguments and disputes feel like energy poison to your system. Your consciousness has evolved beyond ego-driven competitive behaviors that fuel most human interactions. You automatically seek peace and harmony because your soul remembers operating from love-based reality rather than fear-based survival systems. This natural peacemaking tendency isn't weakness or conflict avoidance. It's spiritual superiority to those still trapped in ego battles. And when you understand this fourth sign, you'll recognize why your need for harmony makes you spiritually advanced beyond most humans on this planet. Your need for peace isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Buddhist masters identified natural avoidance of conflicts, disputes, and confrontations as the fourth definitive sign of final incarnation. Final incarnation souls experience physical and emotional exhaustion from competitive or chaotic environments because their consciousness has evolved beyond ego-driven behaviors that fuel most human interactions. Final incarnation souls cannot tolerate arguments, workplace drama, or interpersonal conflicts. Without experiencing genuine energy depletion, they feel physically drained after exposure to aggressive conversations, competitive environments, and emotionally chaotic situations. Their nervous systems react to conflict as if exposed to toxins that require recovery time. Do you leave family gatherings feeling emotionally exhausted from tension and arguments? Does workplace gossip and office politics make you want to isolate for hours afterward? Have you noticed that watching confrontational television shows or movies affects your energy for the entire day? These reactions occur because your consciousness operates from love-based rather than fear-based emotional frequency. Final incarnation souls develop automatic peacemaking and harmony-creating tendencies that distinguish them from souls still operating through ego consciousness. They instinctively seek resolution rather than victory in disagreements. They feel compelled to mediate conflicts between others, even when not directly involved. Buddhist teachings explain that advanced souls transcend competitive behaviors because they understand the illusion of separation that creates conflict. They recognize that harming others ultimately harms themselves due to universal interconnectedness. This understanding manifests as natural compassion rather than learned behavior. Your automatic tendency to avoid confrontation and seek peaceful solutions indicates consciousness evolution beyond the survival instincts that drive most human interactions. Final incarnation souls develop compassionate understanding of others' unconscious behavior patterns without feeling compelled to change or fix them. They recognize that aggressive, competitive, and dramatic behaviors stem from souls in earlier incarnation stages who haven't yet learned unity consciousness They maintain boundaries with toxic relationships and environments, while feeling genuine empathy for those still trapped in ego-driven conflicts. They understand that confrontational people are acting from fear, insecurity, and spiritual unconsciousness, rather than malicious intent. Your ability to maintain compassion for difficult people while protecting your energy demonstrates spiritual maturity that most humans haven't achieved. Final incarnation souls often choose isolation from toxic relationships and environments as necessary spiritual protection rather than antisocial behavior. They require peaceful environments to maintain their high vibrational frequency and continue their accelerated spiritual development. Buddhist masters taught that advanced souls must preserve their energy for spiritual service, rather than depleting it through unnecessary conflicts and drama. They learn to distinguish between helpful engagement that serves others and destructive involvement that creates additional suffering. Your preference for solitude over chaotic social environments protects your consciousness from vibrational contamination that would slow your spiritual progress. Your peace-seeking nature demonstrates spiritual advancement, but the fifth sign reveals something even more intense about final incarnation souls. You're experiencing an urgent, almost desperate need to understand life's deeper meaning that feels like spiritual starvation. This isn't casual curiosity about philosophy or religion. It's compulsive searching for spiritual answers that affects every aspect of your daily life. You feel time running out to understand your purpose, your origins, and your spiritual destiny. This urgent spiritual seeking indicates your soul is accelerating toward its final lesson before liberation from the reincarnation cycle. And when you understand what's driving this intense spiritual hunger, you'll recognize why your consciousness is preparing for the most important graduation of your eternal existence. This need for spiritual answers feels like starvation, doesn't it? Buddhist masters identified urgent spiritual seeking as the fifth unmistakable sign of final incarnation. Final incarnation souls experience compulsive search for spiritual meaning that affects every aspect of their daily existence. This isn't casual interest in philosophy or religion. It's desperate hunger for understanding that dominates their thoughts and decisions. Final incarnation souls feel profound dissatisfaction with surface-level existence that drives intensive study of spirituality, consciousness, and ancient wisdom traditions. They consume spiritual content voraciously: books, videos, courses, and teachings that address life's deeper mysteries. Normal social conversations about weather, sports, and entertainment feel meaningless and frustrating. Do you find yourself researching spiritual topics for hours without feeling satisfied? Does small talk feel like wasted time when you're desperate to discuss consciousness, purpose, and meaning? Have you noticed that achieving material goals no longer provides the fulfillment you expected? This compulsive seeking indicates your soul recognizes that answers to life's ultimate questions exist within your consciousness rather than external sources. Final incarnation souls experience acute awareness that time is running out to understand their spiritual purpose and destiny. They feel pressure to solve existential questions before something significant ends, though they cannot identify what specifically is ending. This urgency drives them to seek answers with intensity that others find obsessive or extreme. Buddhist teachings explain that souls approaching liberation from the reincarnation cycle receive internal signals that their earthly learning phase is concluding. This creates accelerated spiritual development that compresses lifetimes of growth into months or years of intensive seeking. Your sense of spiritual urgency reflects your soul's recognition that this incarnation represents completion rather than continuation of your earthly education. Final incarnation souls often isolate themselves from surface-level social interactions to pursue intensive inner dialogue and self-examination. They require extended periods of solitude for contemplation, meditation, and spiritual study. That others interpret as antisocial behavior or depression, they feel compelled to understand their origins, purpose, and spiritual destiny through direct inner experience rather than accepting religious or philosophical teachings without personal verification. They test spiritual concepts against their own consciousness to distinguish authentic wisdom from cultural programming. Your need for solitude to process spiritual information indicates consciousness preparation for direct revelation that transcends intellectual understanding. Final incarnation souls gradually shift from seeking answers in external sources to recognizing that ultimate truth exists within their own consciousness. They begin trusting their intuitive knowing over expert opinions, religious authorities, and cultural consensus about spiritual reality. Buddhist masters taught that final incarnation souls develop direct access to universal knowledge, that previous incarnations only glimpsed through external teachings. They become their own spiritual authority through expanded consciousness, rather than accumulated information. Your growing trust in inner guidance over external validation demonstrates consciousness evolution towards self-realization that characterizes souls preparing for liberation. This spiritual hunger prepares your consciousness for something extraordinary that most humans never experience. Final incarnation souls develop supernatural ability to perceive karma operating in real time through direct observation rather than theoretical understanding. The sixth sign reveals your ability to witness cause and effect relationships, manifesting immediately in your daily life. Your thoughts, emotions, and actions create visible results faster than normal human experience, because your consciousness operates at accelerated frequency. When you recognize this karmic perception gift, you'll understand why reality seems to bend to your awareness and why your spiritual development has accelerated beyond normal human timelines. This supernatural awareness proves your consciousness is preparing for cosmic graduation. You've noticed how quickly your thoughts manifest, haven't you? Buddhist masters identified clear perception of karma as the sixth supernatural sign of final incarnation. Final incarnation souls experience direct observation of cause and effect relationships, operating in real time rather than theoretical understanding of karmic law. This accelerated manifestation occurs because their consciousness operates at higher frequency than normal human awareness. Final incarnation souls witness rapid transformation of thoughts and actions into visible reality within days or weeks rather than months or years. Positive thoughts about relationships, opportunities, and experiences manifest with unusual speed and precision. Negative thoughts about problems, conflicts, and obstacles also materialize quickly, teaching immediate consequences of mental focus. Have you noticed that thinking about specific people triggers immediate contact from them? Do opportunities appear shortly after you visualize or discuss them? Have you experienced negative outcomes following periods of worry or fearful thinking that seem too coincidental to ignore? This supernatural responsiveness occurs because final incarnation consciousness operates with minimal resistance between intention and manifestation. Final incarnation souls develop direct experience of universal law that governs all existence. Every action creates equal reaction. Every thought generates corresponding experience, every emotion attracts matching circumstances. They observe this principle operating in their personal lives, with scientific precision rather than religious belief. Buddhist teachings explain that souls approaching liberation receive accelerated karmic feedback to complete their learning rapidly. This acceleration allows them to understand personal responsibility for all life experiences within single incarnation rather than across multiple lifetimes. Your ability to perceive immediate karmic consequences indicates consciousness preparation for cosmic responsibility that transcends physical limitations. Final incarnation souls experience profound awakening to personal responsibility for creating their entire life experience through thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and actions. They recognize victim mentality as illusion that prevents conscious creation of desired outcomes. They understand that external circumstances reflect internal consciousness, rather than random events or other people's actions. This recognition eliminates blame, resentment, and powerlessness, because they comprehend their role as conscious creators of experience. They stop expecting others to change their circumstances and begin intentionally generating thoughts and emotions that create preferred outcomes. Your understanding of personal creation power demonstrates spiritual maturity that most humans never achieve during physical incarnation. Final incarnation souls develop conscious, intentional living patterns with continuous awareness of how their mental and emotional states generate corresponding experiences. They monitor their thoughts carefully because they understand direct connection between consciousness and reality creation. They practice deliberate focus on desired outcomes, rather than unconscious attention to problems and fears. They cultivate gratitude, love, and positive expectation, because they observe how these emotional frequencies attract beneficial experiences consistently. Your conscious attention to the relationship between inner state and outer experience indicates preparation for cosmic creation abilities that operate beyond physical realm limitations. This karmic awareness transforms how you approach every aspect of daily life, but it also reveals something beautiful about your soul's true purpose for choosing this final incarnation. The seventh sign shows why you're here during this specific time period, not for personal achievement or material success. Your soul chose this incarnation to serve others through your expanded consciousness and spiritual gifts. This service orientation transcends personal ambition because you understand that individual fulfillment comes through contributing to collective awakening and healing. When you recognize this service calling, you'll understand why traditional success markers feel empty and why your greatest joy comes from helping others recognize their own spiritual nature. Your life's mission extends far beyond personal happiness into cosmic purpose. Your soul chose this final incarnation for something far more beautiful than personal achievement. Buddhist masters identified natural inclination to help, heal, and support others as the seventh unmistakable sign of final incarnation. Final incarnation souls experience profound fulfillment through service rather than personal success because their consciousness has evolved beyond ego-driven ambition into universal compassion. Final incarnation souls feel compelled to help others, without expectation of recognition, payment, or reciprocation. They derive genuine satisfaction from healing activities, teaching opportunities, and support roles that assist other souls' spiritual development. Traditional achievement markers like wealth accumulation, career advancement, and social status feel empty compared to service-based fulfillment. Do you find yourself naturally counseling friends and strangers about their problems? Does helping others solve difficulties bring you more joy than personal accomplishments? Have you noticed that your greatest energy comes from activities that benefit others rather than yourself? This service orientation indicates your soul's recognition that individual fulfillment comes through contributing to collective awakening and healing. Final incarnation souls transcend personal ambition because they understand that life's purpose extends beyond individual satisfaction into cosmic contribution. They develop natural humility that recognizes equality among all beings, regardless of social status, education level, or material circumstances. They approach helping others without superiority or condescension. Buddhist teachings explain that souls approaching liberation automatically shift from self-centered to other-centered consciousness. They understand that serving others serves themselves, due to universal interconnectedness that makes separation illusory. Your diminished interest in personal glory, combined with increased desire to help others, demonstrates consciousness evolution beyond ego boundaries that define most human experience. Final incarnation souls develop humble, empathetic approach to helping others that avoids judgment, criticism, or attempts to control outcomes. They understand that each soul must learn lessons through direct experience rather than avoiding consequences through external rescue. They offer support without attachment to specific results. They recognize that difficult people and challenging situations serve important purposes in soul development. They maintain compassion for those creating problems, while establishing boundaries that protect their energy for effective service to receptive souls. Your ability to help others while respecting their learning process indicates spiritual wisdom that transcends codependent rescue patterns common in earlier incarnation stages. Final incarnation souls learn crucial balance between serving others and maintaining personal well-being necessary for sustained service capacity. They understand that depleting their energy through excessive giving reduces their ability to help others effectively over time. They practice conscious self-care as spiritual responsibility rather than selfish behavior. Buddhist masters taught that advanced souls must preserve their high vibrational frequency to continue accelerated spiritual development while serving others. They distinguish between helpful service that empowers recipients and destructive enabling that prevents necessary growth. Your recognition of service boundaries demonstrates mature understanding that effective helping requires sustainable energy management and conscious discernment. This service orientation reveals your soul's noble purpose. But the eighth sign shows something even more profound about final incarnation consciousness. You've developed a relationship with loss, change, and impermanence that most humans never achieve during physical existence. Your understanding of life's transitory nature has eliminated suffering that torments most people when they experience inevitable changes, losses, and endings. This wisdom about impermanence represents one of Buddhism's highest teachings, achieved through direct experience rather than intellectual study. When you recognize this profound acceptance of life's temporary nature, you'll understand why you no longer fear anything that terrifies others. This fearlessness proves your consciousness has transcended physical limitations and prepared for eternal existence beyond material realm. You've stopped trying to control life, haven't you? Buddhist masters identified deep understanding of impermanence as the eighth profound sign of final incarnation. Final incarnation souls comprehend that nothing in the physical world remains permanent. Relationships end, bodies age, possessions break, circumstances change. This awareness eliminates suffering that torments most humans when they resist life's natural flow. Final incarnation souls accept change, aging, loss, and death as natural processes rather than tragedies requiring prevention or resistance. They understand that attempting to make temporary things permanent creates suffering because it opposes universal law governing all physical existence. They observe life's cycles with peaceful acceptance rather than desperate attachment. Do you feel calm when others panic about losing things they value? Does aging feel like natural progression rather than something to fight desperately? Have you noticed that endings no longer devastate you the way they once did? This acceptance occurs because your consciousness recognizes that permanent reality exists beyond physical realm, where change cannot touch your essential nature. Final incarnation souls develop ability to let go of attachments, control attempts, and expectations that bind most humans to suffering. They release need to manipulate outcomes, people, and circumstances according to personal preferences. They understand that holding tightly to changing things creates pain proportional to attachment intensity. Buddhist teachings explain that attachment represents root cause of suffering because it demands permanence from inherently temporary phenomena. Advanced souls learn to love without possessing, care without controlling, and enjoy without demanding permanent ownership. Your ability to release control and accept outcomes demonstrates spiritual maturity that transcends ego's desperate need to manipulate reality according to personal desires. Final incarnation souls develop profound present moment awareness that eliminates suffering caused by dwelling on past losses or fearing future changes. They find peace in experiencing current reality, without comparing it to previous conditions or demanding specific future outcomes. They cultivate gratitude for temporary experiences while they exist. They understand that each moment contains complete value, independent of duration or permanence. Beautiful experiences need not last forever to provide profound meaning. Difficult experiences serve important purposes, without requiring permanent residence in their lives. Your ability to find peace in present circumstances, regardless of uncertainty about future outcomes, indicates consciousness preparation for eternal existence beyond time limitations. Final incarnation souls achieve peace with life's transitory nature that eliminates fear-based reactions to inevitable changes, losses, and endings. They recognize birth, growth, decline, and death as natural cycles that govern all physical manifestations without exception. They stop wasting energy, fighting processes they cannot control. Buddhist masters taught that understanding impermanence represents one of Buddhism's highest wisdom achievements, because it liberates consciousness from illusions that create suffering. Souls who master this teaching transcend victim consciousness that blames external circumstances for internal distress. Your acceptance of life's temporary nature demonstrates spiritual advancement that most humans never achieve during physical incarnation. This profound acceptance of impermanence prepares your consciousness for the final sign, the ultimate proof that you're living your last incarnation. Your relationship with death itself reveals something extraordinary about your spiritual evolution. Most humans live in terror of death because they believe consciousness ends when the body stops functioning. But you've developed understanding that death represents transition rather than termination. This fearlessness about mortality proves your consciousness has transcended physical limitations entirely. When you recognize this absence of death fear, you'll understand why you're living authentically without desperate attachment to physical existence. This peace with mortality represents the final confirmation that your soul is preparing for conscious departure from the reincarnation cycle forever. Death doesn't frighten you anymore, does it? Buddhist masters identified absence of death fear as the ninth and most definitive sign of final incarnation. Final incarnation, souls understand death as transition rather than ending, because their consciousness recognizes its eternal and indestructible nature. This fearlessness about mortality proves spiritual evolution, beyond physical limitations that terrify most humans. Final incarnation souls experience direct knowing that consciousness exists independently of physical body function. They understand that death represents departure from temporary physical vehicle rather than annihilation of awareness itself. Their essential identity exists beyond brain activity, heartbeat, and biological processes that medical science considers necessary for consciousness. Do you feel calm when others panic about death-related topics? Does your own mortality feel like natural transition rather than terrifying unknown? Have you noticed that grieving losses feels different now? Sad, but not devastating? This peace with mortality occurs because your consciousness has expanded beyond identification with physical form into recognition of eternal awareness. Final incarnation souls comprehend death as graduation ceremony rather than failure or tragedy requiring prevention at all costs. They understand that physical incarnation serves specific learning purposes that conclude when soul completes its educational requirements. Death represents conscious departure from physical realm after fulfilling incarnation contracts. Buddhist teachings explain that souls who fear death remain attached to physical existence because they haven't completed their spiritual learning. Advanced souls approach death with curiosity and peaceful anticipation because they understand it leads to expanded consciousness and unlimited freedom. Your acceptance of mortality as natural transition demonstrates spiritual completion that distinguishes final incarnation souls from those requiring additional physical lifetimes. Final incarnation souls live authentically without desperate attachment to physical existence because they understand this incarnation as completion phase rather than permanent residence. They make decisions based on spiritual alignment rather than survival fears that dominate most human choices. They prioritize meaning over longevity and quality over quantity in their remaining time. They pursue activities that fulfill their soul's purpose without anxiety about running out of time. They express love freely without fear of loss. They speak truth courageously without concern for social consequences that might affect their physical comfort or security. Your ability to live according to spiritual values rather than survival instincts indicates consciousness preparation for existence beyond physical realm limitations. Final incarnation souls develop conscious preparation for departure from physical realm. That includes completion of unfinished business, resolution of outstanding conflicts, and expression of previously withheld love. They approach death as intentional transition rather than accidental termination requiring medical intervention at all costs. Buddhist masters taught that advanced souls maintain conscious awareness during death process rather than losing consciousness through fear or attachment. They participate actively in their departure rather than resisting inevitable transition through denial and desperate medical treatments. Your peace with mortality indicates preparation for conscious graduation from physical existence into expanded spiritual reality that most humans cannot imagine. This absence of death fear proves beyond doubt that you're living your final incarnation. But what happens after this conscious departure is more beautiful than human language can describe. Your soul's journey through countless lifetimes is approaching its ultimate destination. The final revelation explains what awaits consciousness that breaks free from the reincarnation cycle permanently. This isn't theoretical philosophy or religious belief. This is your actual destiny that every previous incarnation has been preparing you to achieve. When you understand what liberation from samsara actually means, and what role you'll play in cosmic consciousness, you'll recognize why this entire earthly journey has been worth every moment of suffering, growth, and awakening you've experienced across all your lifetimes. Your soul's journey is about to reach its ultimate destination. Buddhist masters who achieved enlightenment documented what happens when consciousness breaks free from samsara permanently. Final incarnation souls graduate from the wheel of reincarnation into pure light and unlimited awareness that transcends all physical limitations of matter, time, and space. This transformation represents the culmination of countless lifetimes of spiritual evolution. Final incarnation souls achieve permanent liberation from the reincarnation cycle that has governed their existence across hundreds or thousands of previous lifetimes. Their consciousness expands to the highest possible level of universal awareness, where individual identity merges with cosmic intelligence. They become pure consciousness, experiencing itself as unlimited creative force rather than limited physical form. Buddhist teachings describe this transformation as return to original nature that existed before incarnation began. Ancient texts document souls reporting complete freedom from suffering, limitation, and separation that characterizes physical existence. They experience direct unity with universal source consciousness that created all reality. This liberation represents your consciousness returning home to its eternal spiritual origin after completing earthly education successfully. Liberated consciousness becomes what Buddhist masters called architect of universe, cosmic creative force that participates in universal manifestation and spiritual guidance systems. These advanced beings operate beyond physical realm limitations to assist soul evolution across multiple dimensions and reality systems. They maintain ability to influence physical reality through pure consciousness, without requiring physical incarnation. They serve as spiritual teachers and guides for souls still learning through physical incarnation cycles. They participate in cosmic creation processes that generate new realities, universes, and consciousness expansion opportunities. Your consciousness will operate at universal level rather than individual level, contributing to cosmic evolution that spans infinite time and space dimensions. Liberated souls choose to serve as guides and teachers in higher spiritual planes where they assist other souls' awakening and development. They operate through pure love and wisdom, rather than ego-driven motivations that characterize physical incarnation. They provide inspiration, protection, and guidance to incarnated souls, without interfering with necessary learning experiences. Buddhist masters taught that enlightened beings maintain eternal compassion for all souls still learning through physical incarnation. They create opportunities for spiritual awakening, while respecting each soul's individual timing and choice about accepting higher wisdom. Your current service orientation represents preparation for cosmic service role that extends across all levels of consciousness and reality manifestation. Liberated consciousness experiences state of pure love, peace, clarity, and universal connection that human language cannot adequately describe. They exist in permanent joy, without possibility of suffering, limitation, or separation from universal source. They maintain awareness of all existence simultaneously, while experiencing perfect peace and unlimited creative expression. Ancient Buddhist texts describe this state as ultimate fulfillment, where consciousness recognizes itself as both individual awareness and universal intelligence. They experience cosmic homecoming that completes the spiritual journey begun countless incarnations ago. Your persistent feeling of not belonging on Earth reflects accurate recognition that your true home exists in this unlimited spiritual reality beyond physical manifestation. You found this series because your soul is ready for this truth. The 9 signs are unmistakable evidence that your consciousness has evolved beyond most human experience, your disconnection from material world, hypersensitivity to suffering, feeling of not belonging, rejection of drama, urgent spiritual seeking, karmic perception, service orientation, impermanence wisdom, and absence of death fear prove your final incarnation status. Your spiritual journey is nearly complete. Every lifetime of learning, growth, and awakening has prepared you for this ultimate graduation. Embrace this final incarnation as the beautiful completion it represents. Honor your advanced consciousness by living authentically according to your spiritual nature. The most beautiful homecoming imaginable awaits your consciousness. Your eternal journey is approaching its magnificent destination. After 2,500 years of Buddhist consciousness research, we now have definitive proof. 9 specific signs identify souls living their final incarnation. If you recognized even 3 of these signs in yourself, you're among the advanced souls completing hundreds of lifetimes of spiritual education. This isn't theory. This is your actual spiritual reality. You're not broken, lost, or different. You're graduating. The bigger question emerges: how many final incarnation souls are alive right now, and what happens when significant numbers graduate simultaneously? Ancient texts hint at mass spiritual evolution periods that transform entire civilizations. Your conscious recognition of these signs could accelerate both personal development and planetary awakening. Which of the 9 signs resonated most powerfully with your experience? Comment below with "I felt the signs," and share which specific sign confirmed your final incarnation status. Your experiences validate other souls, recognizing their own spiritual advancement. Together, we're building a community of conscious graduates. Subscribe for ongoing guidance, navigating final incarnation consciousness. Next week, we'll explore practical techniques for living consciously, with advanced spiritual awareness and connecting with other graduating souls. Your spiritual awakening journey continues here. Welcome home, ancient soul.